nature of this chance, that he won't accept the result of a nationwide ballot, which is incredible. And of course he could still win. Sean is in Newport in South Wales. Sean, what would you like to say?
Hello, good morning, James. I hope you and your family are well.
That's very cool.
Thank you. I just wanted to go off so that I think you're on the right lines, but my read is that it's the other way around. My read is that Trump wouldn't have made that speech this morning unless he thought or he calculated that he had won enough electoral votes to get this election.
That's what I thought. I mean, we might be doing him too much credit by thinking that he's being sensible and calm, even while he's being potentially corrupt and dodgy. But it sounded like a speech from a man who's been given information that makes him think the game is confused by subsequent reactions.
Well, I mean, the figures are just not behind Biden at the moment. I can talk you through them, but it would be very, very boring if everybody considered him true as we all started throwing numbers out. But it looks like Trump is going to take Pennsylvania and Georgia at this point, and he's taking Texas, so I think the game's pretty much over. But what strikes me about the Trump show is that they're always about creating a narrative that they can talk around and control, yes, rather than dealing with the narrative that's in front of them. And by doing that this morning, all of the energies of his opposition will immediately focus on discrediting what he said, the claim that he's won. And then when the electoral votes do come through properly, he can say, look, they are horrible Democrats, I got the votes, they were trying to undermine democracy, which is a narrative that they can then carry over to the 2024 election.
So he thinks he's so. Then you're right. You are swimming in a different direction from me. I think this late surge by Biden that is sort of emerging now and was widely predicted might challenge your conclusions regarding who's going to win. But let's work on the principle that you're right. You think that he thinks he's won, he thinks / knows he's won, and that therefore he's getting the fraud narrative into the national bloodstream in order to speed through even more legalised voter suppression over the next 4 years.
Yeah, yeah, along those lines, yeah. It's all about...
If I say there's a fraud and that's why I've lost, and then I win, doesn't that prove there was no fraud?
But he's not said he's lost, but if he's... votes.
They're not mining for additional votes, they're counting votes that have already been cast.
Yeah, but if you listen to the words that he said...
I did, about 8 times. Let's not do this again.
Okay, my apologies.
Right.
I heard it slightly differently. My apologies, I didn't
So you heard him calling for voting to end, even though it's already ended. So you heard gibberish, as opposed to him clearly wanting counting to end, which is why Pennsylvania, Wisconsin and Michigan failed to pass laws that would allow counting to have already started before election day.
Yeah. The one thing that jumped out for me...
I just want to pin you down on this. So when he says stop the voting, either it's gibberish because it's already stopped, or he obviously means counting. Which of those 2 points are you subscribing to when you say you disagree with me?
I think he's saying stop the voting rather than stop the counting.
But the voting has stopped, so he's talking utter gibberish then.
Yes.
Okay, well, if you want to hang your hat on that hook, I can't stop you, but I mean, it is utter gibberish, and therefore whatever you build on it is going to be pointless.
But the reason I said that, there were some key words that jumped out to me, and again, my apologies if I've misheard this, but what he said was something about going out and finding votes at 4 a.m. in the morning. It was that line that jumped out at me.
Yes.
I can't remember the exact words.
Well, all right. I did say we weren't going to go around this particular house again. I mean, what he is talking about is a box of votes that have already been cast that would not be counted in his ideal world, but would be counted in the actual world. So he is calling for a cessation of the election now because he thinks he's won, even though the Electoral College votes are against it. I mean, this is sort of very helpful semantic stroke pedantic conversation. So let me drag you back to where we began, and that is, very simply, if Joe Biden wins, as the bookies think he's going to now, to nod back to our friend in Lewis earlier, What do you think Donald Trump will do, and why is he already talking about a fraud? Because your original point was he's talking about a fraud because he thinks he's won, and I'm just intrigued by where that leads next.
Well, it works for him in either direction. If he's lost, then he can carry on fighting, because if he's lost, he's got nothing to lose, and he can take it to the courts and he can try and discredit the mail-in votes. If he's won, however, he's built up this narrative that the Democrats were trying to undermine democracy, so it's a win-win situation.
I think I understand the point you're making now, and it's an interesting one. I don't agree with it, except until you remember that it's Donald Trump we're talking about. So all the normal laws of logic and reason left the building some time ago. But if you claim that you've been a victim of a fraud and then you win, in a normal universe that would completely undermine the allegation that you've committed a fraud. But actually, do you know what? I guess my own coin flipping theory is the distillation of what you're saying, so I can't criticise you too enthusiastically. He's tossed a coin, he's shouted heads and tails, so however it lands, he's going to claim victory. It's coming up to 11:30. Thank you, Sean. You can have Sean's phone line. It's the only one I've got free at the moment. As soon as Sean hangs up, it's yours. 0345 6060 973. Do feel free to have a crack at what you think he's going to do in the event of Biden winning more electoral college votes. I mean, within the realms of plausibility, but I guess it's a mark of how mad things have become that you would now contemplate almost anything. What's he going to do? Bolt the doors of the White House? I mean, go on Fox News and... Holy moly. 11:30 is the time. Holly Harris is here with the headlines.
Donald Trump is threatening to take the US election result to the Supreme Court, calling for counting to be stopped. The president's accused his opponents of a fraud on the American public, but hasn't provided any evidence. Joe Biden's campaign has described the president's claims as outrageous, unprecedented and incorrect. Meanwhile, the count is still continuing. With just a handful of states yet to report their votes, the end result remains too close to call. 3 men have been arrested on suspicion of fraud relating to August's Eat Out to Help Out discount scheme. HM Revenue and Customs officers are questioning the men on suspicion of cheating the public revenue and fraud by false representation. The weather, most parts of the UK staying dry with light winds and plenty of sunshine, turning cloudy and windy across northern Scotland later with some rain by this evening. A high today of 11 Celsius.
This is LBC.
If your dentures or loose and missing teeth make it hard to eat or make you self-conscious about your smile, TDC Smile in a Day dental implants could be the solution for you.
I smile. I'm a lot more confident. I don't have to talk with my hand over my mouth. If I'd have known the outcome and how it would have changed me, I just wish I'd gone to TDC years ago.
Let TDC restore your teeth, your smile, and your confidence. Book your consultation. Visit smileinaday.co.uk or call TDC Harley Street on 0203 7334 987.
Smile in a day, TDC.
At Morrison's, selected tubs of chocolate are any two for £7. Choose from Celebrations, Heroes, Quality Street and Roses. Morrison's, making it cost less. Majority of stores and online, subject to availability, 600 grams to 650 grams, $3.99 each, ends 8th of November. If you're wondering what you can do with your pension pot, this could be how you're feeling. That's the sound of worry and uncertainty, but you could be hearing this. Let's call it the sound of clarity, which you can get from PensionWise, a government service providing free, impartial guidance. In just an hour, you'll get clarity on all your options so everything feels less and a little more. If you're over 50, visit pensionwise.gov.uk or call 0800 144 8944 and discover the power of an hour.
Lola should be saying a virtual hello to her new clients right now, but instead she's saying... Awkward. Why, Lola? Why set up a fancy new loft office if your Wi-Fi doesn't reach it? Never fear. With BT Complete Wi-Fi, you'll be back with a bing. Only BT guarantees reliable Wi-Fi in every room or £100 back. Why choose anyone else? BT. Beyond limits. Up to 3 discs to guarantee 10 Mbps in every room or £100 off your next bill. Terms apply.
Lorraine here runs her own hot yoga business. She'd rather be working on her warrior pose than on her finances. That's why she got QuickBooks. Now she can get paid, track income, and run payroll all in one place. Because no matter how hot the yoga studio gets, running her business is no sweat. Visit quickbooks.co.uk for details. Intuit QuickBooks.
M means your heart never failing to skip a beat every time the engine awakes. M means forever looking forward to the road less traveled. M means every journey starts within and it has an open end. BMW M, the most powerful letter in the world. Discover the BMW M range today.
Ancestry is making millions of UK wartime records free to explore until Remembrance Sunday. Who will you remember? Discover your family's wartime story, learn about the part they played, and ensure their memory lives on. Bring your backstory to life with Ancestry. Registration required.
James O'Brien on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
11:34 is the time. Some mixed feelings in the ether. James, Trump is claiming that he's won despite the fraud he's alleged. He can use this many ways, big ways, says Steve, who's channeling the Mandarin monster, I think, there with the big ways at the end, and that I think was the point the last fellow was making. The possibly I was a little slow to grasp in that the allegation of fraud just adds A to the victim narrative, and then B, if he wins, it's in the public consciousness. His base think that they tried to defraud him of the victory, and therefore measures that the GOP might take, the Republican establishment might take to suppress further votes. And our caller from describing Florida earlier, Mandib, was bang on. I didn't know that. 65% referendum result to let ex-prisoners have a vote because they are, they've served their sentence, they're functioning members of society, they should have a say in who and how it's governed. And they just ignored it. They didn't have to enact it at all. So the idea that they would introduce more and more, making it harder to vote in certain areas, I mean, it happened all over America already. So the narrative of a fraud, bogus though it is, it's all about sowing seeds. And God, if we haven't learned by that he puts these ideas that are not true. Look, here's the best analogy. I've always subscribed to the idea that if one person says it's raining and another person says it's not raining, my job is not to give them both equal airtime and equal attention on my programme. This is why I had to leave the BBC. For BBC, you have to do that. I actually interviewed Roger Stone about the inauguration. It hadn't been raining. So my job is to stick my head out the window. The problem then, and this is where a degree of complacency, or even, dare I say, smugness, crept in over the years, is that when I put my head back into the room soaking wet and saying, yes, it's raining, you might still say, no, it's not, if you're desperate enough to believe the bloke that told you that it was raining, for whatever reason, and that's where we are. Shams is in the city. Hello, Shams.
Hi, James. God, what a strange morning.
It's been a while. It's been a while. How are you keeping?
Yeah, not too bad. Firstly, you haven't mentioned your book this morning, so that's a real strange one.
Thank you. I think I have to disagree. I think you'll find I have mentioned my book. How dare you suggest that I haven't mentioned my book when I clearly have mentioned my book, How Not to Be Wrong, The Art of Changing Your Mind, available in all good bookshops and online. Actually, online mostly, isn't it? Because the bookshops are about to close. Which is just, so yes, thank you. You're wrong, but also you're right.
Yeah, but also I'm still waiting for my copy because I enjoyed your Penguin and Bible beds. And if you haven't received a copy from the back of that.
Have you not?
No.
That's outrageous. I'll look into that later. Leave your details.
I think we got an email. Anyway, right. what I'm calling about. This morning.
I'm an author. I don't work in the shop, mate. This is outrageous. You wouldn't do this to Jeffrey Archer, would you? Carry on.
Yeah, okay, well, whilst we put out a bit of levity for this morning,
Yes.
well, the thing that got me, I had to go online to order your book on Amazon. This was 5 hours after it was released, and I was amazed by the negative reviews. They sat up all night, waiting for the book to be released, downloaded it, read the book, and then came to the conclusion that they didn't want to read the book. It's just...
I don't want to go too far down this hole because it's a bit niche and it's a bit self-indulgent. But do you think it's possible that they hadn't read it at all?
James, it took me about 7 hours. Right? It's not a hefty book. It's more of a leaflet or pamphlet. But for those people, it must have taken them a week to. There were words from. Anyway,
did you like it? Did you like it?
Yes, yeah, no, very, very honest of you, very good. But it was a bit thin, I would say, James.
Fair enough. I'll tell you, it's a lockdown book, 240 pages. How long was your last one?
All right, touche.
Now, why did you ring in?
Okay, now, everything that Trump has done has neither shocked or surprised me. Okay, well, we know the petulant man-child he is. Where I'm coming from, the thing that frightens me is why 60 million people I've seen the last 5 years have still voted for him.
Yeah.
And the
more than last time. More than last time.
More than, the only two things I can come to is, Biden, he's a fairly elderly gentleman and he doesn't look at the best of both. This is not to be derogatory or passing any judgment.
Although the derogatory stuff has landed, hasn't it? I heard someone on the next show earlier saying he's obvious, but it proves that the
Agreed. So then what the Trump the prospect of Kamala Harris running. Now you've got to remember most of the states where Trump has a great following tend to be very, shall we say, traditional, where the man and the wildlife are scared. These are the traditional types of states. And to have a woman run the show, and not only a woman, but a woman that is mixed race, it's something that goes fundamentally against what they believe.
I think they're overthinking it. I think they love him, mate. They love him for all the reasons that you don't.
I agree, but I think there's got to be something more to the fact that the Dems were to put forward more, as someone mentioned before, a charismatic candidate, such as Pete Mayer, Pete Buttigieg?
Buttigieg, I don't know how you pronounce it.
Buttigieg. But I mean, that guy, amazing.
He's gay.
He comes back and
so in those states you've just described, he's not going to butter many parsnips, is he?
Yes, but he's also an ex-military guy.
And he's strong on Fox News. He takes the fight to them. I mean, goodness knows what Biden would have done if the coronavirus hadn't been going on. But it's possible things would have gone worse for him rather than better. So, okay. So what he needed to go up against a titan.
Yes, and point number 2, I think, is the selling of snake oil. He's touting the prospect of a cure for COVID coming around the corner. And you've got to, and I've looked at the results last night, and some of the states where they have the highest number of fatalities also voted largely in favour of Trump. Because obviously people, what the Dems have done is given a realistic view, but people don't want fear, they want hope. And Trump has been an excellent snake oil salesman. He's given them hope in the sense that there is a cure coming just around the corner.
Or even worse, that he's given them an invitation to deny that it even exists. And then that happened very much in the closing days of the election. But it reminds us of another uncle.
Etc. But I think you're totally right. That's the scary part, is 160 million people.
That was, that's why he's sought to deny that it even exists, and that is crazy. But again, you're not quite where I am, are you yet? Because I'm at peace with this now. Half of the population loves what I despise. They love the racism, they love the sexism, they love the misogyny, they love the bullying, they love the insulting. Because as that caller said to us last year, and Gary Burton's just reminded me of it, old Steve, I know what he is, but I love it because it upsets people like you. So for 5 minutes, these people get to feel temporarily better about their own lives because they've brought some more horror into it.
No, I can't argue with that. I've been thinking more around about why. I think I'm giving people more.
Yeah, you are still.
Credit.
Yeah, you're still thinking. Oh, don't worry. This time they'll see what he's really like, and then they'll agree with me that with this we should not put. But they know exactly what he's like. Arguably, they knew what he was like before we did. They love it.
That's just the time. Oh, God.
Well, there you go. No, that's the problem. Anyway, to correct your original point, Stephen's been in touch. He says, you mentioned your book at 10:26 a.m. I very nearly tweeted you to congratulate you for going so long without mentioning it.
What, has Brexit been brought up yet? Oh, no, you want Farage on the show.
Here's some Brexit. Here's some Brexit from someone called Danny in Upminster. He says, I find it amazing you going on about how unbelievable it is that if Trump lost, he'd take them to court, etc., trying to overturn a nationwide democratic vote. You supported the Remain camp's democratic nationwide vote. No, Danny, mate, there was a huge difference. If I had been campaigning to tear up the result of the referendum in 2016, if it had never happened, you'd have half the point. But of course, if the idea that you measure twice and cut once, and that now it's clear that all the promises that were made in 2016 were either mistakes or blatant lies, people might want to have another crack at the whip. That is a completely different proposition. But just for Shams's amusement, I read that out because I don't think we have mentioned Brexit yet, although we have had that little clip of Farage, which is, again, you know, I don't know whether this is me being zen or whether this is me being defeatist. It doesn't matter. People that like what he sells will still buy it, even though he's just made a complete fool of himself on national television. And it's not often that I come out in admiration of Andrew Neil. Actually, that's not true. He's brilliant at what he does on the telly. I just don't believe he should be allowed to do it on the BBC if he is also being paid by the Barclay brothers to publish the Spectator magazine, any more than, you know, my Twitter account should have prevented me from doing jobs like that. But here he is being brilliant.
What is the evidence of voter fraud?
Oh, the evidence of voter fraud with postal voting, of course, is there for all to see. We know it ourselves on our side of the pond.
No, but where is the evidence from the United States of fraud of postal votes?
Because it's so new, it hasn't come to light yet.
Yeah, the evidence is there for all. I know. Listen. You can tell by my voice. This is not a man who expects any pennies to drop anymore as a result of this. You like the fella, okay? Here's complete evidence of exactly what he is. You still like him. Let's do it again, because this is beautiful. This is up there with my interview with him a few years ago.
What is the evidence of voter fraud?
Oh, the evidence of voter fraud with postal voting, of course, is there for all to see. We know it ourselves on our side of the pond.
No, but where is the evidence from the United States of fraud of postal votes?
Because it's so new, it hasn't come to light yet.
So it's there for all to see, and also hasn't come to light yet. Good grief. Oh, man alive. Anyway, he's got a new party now, which is all about opposing the lockdown that he was massively in favour of back in March. But like I said, no pennies drop. You love it. You love being lied to. I get it. Maybe now that it doesn't upset people like me anymore, because we've become inured to it and we've become a little bit blasé, dare I say, even amused by it, then the fellow who rang in last year to say, I love being lied to by racists because it upsets people like you and Sadiq Khan. Well, we're not upset anymore. So what's your excuse now?
This is LBC. At Waitrose, we don't cut corners, but we do cut prices. We've reduced prices on hundreds of Waitrose favourites that you buy most often, such as higher welfare chicken and outdoor bred pork, delicious prepared meals, fresh fruit and organic vegetables, and store-cupboard staples like our fair trade tea and essential household cleaning items. So next time you visit Waitrose, you'll get the quality you'd expect at a new, lower price.
Selected lines and stores, subject to availability. Prices may vary in the Channel Islands, Little Waitrose and concessions. It's no surprise when all cars from Hey Car come with a warranty. And Hey Car offer a 10-day money-back guarantee. Well, we only have the best quality cars from selected dealers. Hey, buying a car never felt so good. Search Hey Car to find yours. Ancestry is making millions of UK wartime records free to explore until Remembrance Sunday. Who will you remember? Discover your family's wartime story, learn about the part they played, and ensure their memory lives on. Bring your backstory to life with Ancestry. Registration required.
The big co-op price cut is here. We're lowering prices on hundreds of products across our stores.
From Co-op 145-gram tuna chunks in brine, down from £1.10 to 85p. To Co-op 500-gram fusilli pasta twists, down from 66p to 58p. And Co-op 500-gram tomato and garlic pasta sauce, down from 85p to 70p. Look out for the big Co-op price cut in your local store now. Co-op is what we do. Selected products subject to availability.
Trusted PPE talked to Dave Rowe, manager at Nottingham Venue Junkyard.
The whole time that staff are on shift, you're wearing a mask regardless of what area of the building you're in. Some people who wear masks, some people who wear visors, some people who wear masks and visors. We provide everything. If the staff feel safe, then the customers who come in are going to feel safe.
Protect your staff and your customers with bulk buy masks and visors from trustedppe.co.uk. Order before 4 p.m. weekdays for same-day dispatch. Rated excellent on Trustpilot.
Jen's new smart speaker should be teaching her to cook a chicken. But it's not, because her Wi-Fi doesn't reach the kitchen, so she's winging it. Buisson Le Ceiling is served. Oh, why, Jen? Why buy the best home tech if your Wi-Fi won't support it? Well, with BT Complete Wi-Fi, that bird can still be basted. Only BT guarantees reliable Wi-Fi in every room or £100 back. Why choose anyone else? BT, beyond limits.
Up to 3 discs to guarantee 10 Mbps in every room or £100 off your next bill. Terms apply.
At Morrison's, selected tubs of chocolate are only 2 for £7. Choose from Celebrations, Heroes, Quality Street and Roses. Morrison's, making it cost less. Majority of stores and online, subject to availability. 600 grams to 650 grams, £3.99 each, ends 8th of November.
M means your heart never failing to skip a beat every time the engine awakes. M means forever looking forward to the road less traveled. M means every journey starts within and it has an open end. BMW M, the most powerful letter in the world. Discover the BMW M range today.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with James O'Brien.
10 minutes to 12 is the time. If you want to get in touch with the programme, you currently have 2 phone lines which you could avail yourself of if you're really quick. 0345 60973 is the number that you need. Gary Burton is deputy producer of the programme today, although he's doing it all by Twitter, because he says not to mention QAnon. And of course, this was for me perhaps the sort of reason for my complete lack of optimism, was the sheer number of people that were buying into that. So if you, and I think one of them's just been elected to Congress as well, someone who actually touts the QAnonsens. And if you looked at that, if you looked at the numbers of people who were telling pollsters, and I know pollsters haven't exactly had a great 24 hours, but the number of people who were telling pollsters that they believed in QAnon, that children are being kidnapped to have their blood harvested to make potions of youthful elixirs for Democrat politicians and Hollywood stars, and that they're being kept imprisoned in tunnels under our major cities. I mean, absolute nonsense. But the number of people prepared to publicly admit to believing it, to publicly state that they believed it, if you saw that as the top of a mountain, right, the people on the top of the mountain are the QAnon believers. For me, the whole of that mountain is what we should be focusing on, and that's why I'm less surprised than many that Donald Trump has secured more votes in 2020, whatever happens, than he did in 2016. I mentioned earlier the analogy of having my face right up against the canvas, and so seeing just a sort of selection, apparently random selection of splodges and smears. And then as you step back from the canvas, the picture comes into focus and you see it more clearly. Brian Klass, who's an associate professor in global politics at UCL and writes a column for the Washington Post, as well as books including How to Rig an Election, is, for my money, one of the best chroniclers of the big picture, one of the best resistors of having his nose so pressed up against the canvas that this is something I'm sometimes guilty of. We can only see the smears and the smudges directly in front of us, and he joins us on the line now, presumably just before clocking off and going to bed, Brian, having been up all night.
That's right, yeah, I haven't slept.
Okay, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'll try to be as coherent as possible.
Thank you. The point you've been making and making very powerfully is that even if Biden hangs on and wins, something pretty profound has happened in the last 24 hours to your country.
Yeah, I think there was sort of two elections that were happening. One was the moral election, and one was
That's
the
it,
political
folks.
election.
Out again in
And the
a
moral
couple of
election
hours.
Was, is this what the United